Welcome back, fellow truth seekers. Today, we embark on a fascinating journey, diving deep into the mysteries of the Bible. Join us as we unveil the truth behind the Immortal Trio, the eternal men mentioned in the sacred scriptures. God called Elijah during one of the toughest times for Israel. Israel at that time had Ahab as its ruler, who was one of the worst ever. He was a Tishbite from Gilead in the Transjordan region and one of Israel's greatest prophets. Although there is no book written in his honor, Kings covers more of his life than the majority of the kings themselves. He became most well-known after his encounter with the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel. Because the Israelites were God's people, the system that was supposed to be managed on his terms has been infused with idealism by King Ahab. Israel was suffering as a result of ineffective leadership, but Elijah stood in for a different sort of dominance. He had no ties to the royal family or the political establishment. He had the independence and integrity to speak the truth to those in positions of authority on earth. Elijah was a fearless individual who spoke up for the truth regardless of who was in authority. He stood for a much different kingdom with a very different goal. Elijah appeared to have completed his journey through life. He was brave nearly beyond belief, yet humble in spirit. But he was set to surpass everyone. He was about to survive. Elijah belongs to the rare category of deathless exits thanks to his deathless departure. God clearly warned Elijah of his coming departure, despite the fact that we are never told when or how he did so. As we will see, God revealed it to Elisha, the old prophet's close friend and divinely appointed successor, as well as to the prophet's sons. 2 Kings chapter 2 verses 1 to 12. Elijah and Elisha had left Gilgal and were traveling towards the promised land when the Lord was preparing to raise Elijah to heaven in a whirlwind. We have reached the day of Elijah's departure from this planet when he will be taken away in a whirlwind. The Hebrew phrase, in a gust, can alternatively be rendered as, in a windy moment. Elijah would be caught up in a sudden, broad movement. He would then vanish from this world and enter God's presence in an instant. God had already revealed to Elijah that this would occur, how it would occur, and where it would occur. This explains why Elijah is traveling swiftly in the direction of Jordan. Imagine the situation playing out while you read the story. And Elijah replied to Elisha, "Please stay here, for the Lord has sent me to Bethel," according to 2 Kings chapter 2 verses 2 to 6 of the Amplified Bible. "I won't abandon you," Elisha retorted, "as the Lord lives and as your soul lives." They then descended to Bethel. "Do you realize that the Lord would take your teacher from you today?" the sons of the prophets at Bethel asked Elisha as they approached him. "Yes, I know," he replied. "Keep your mouth shut." "Elisha, stay here. The Lord has sent me to Jericho," Elijah said to him. But he added, "I won't abandon you as long as the Lord lives and as your soul lives." The two of them continued. "Do you know that the Lord will remove your master from over you today, as the sons of the prophets requested of Elisha in Bethel and Jericho?" Both times, Elisha's response was the same, "Yes, I know. Please be quiet now." The starting location was Gilgal. After crossing the Jordan into Canaan, the children of Israel set up camp in Gilgal, according to Joshua chapter 4. If you remember your biblical history, this was right before they started their attack on enemy land, when they were still safe and protected. The first stop on Elijah's final voyage was Gilgal. The place of prayer Bethel was Elijah's next stop. Bethel refers to God's home. Elijah finally traveled to Jordan, a land of death. Not simply the death of the body, but also the death of the self. As he reached Jordan, Elijah's last stop on earth, Elisha told him, "As the Lord lives, I will not leave you." Since Gilgal, Elijah had been seeking to put Elisha at a distance. I believe that he was testing his close friend and eventual successor more than he was trying to get rid of Elisha. The atmosphere suddenly transformed when the two men came to a stop beside Jordan. This remarkable occurrence will now occur. According to 2 Kings chapter 2 verses 7 to 10 in the Amplified Bible, 50 of the sons of the prophets also went and stood opposite them by the Jordan to watch from a distance. Elijah then rolled up his mantle coat and struck the river with it, which caused it to split in two so that the two of them could cross on dry land. Elijah instructed Elisha to ask what ye shall do for you before I am taken from you, after they had crossed the border. And Elisha pleaded with the Lord for a twofold amount of his spirit to be upon him, "You have asked for a challenging thing," he remarked. "But if you see me before I'm taken away from you, it'll be the same for you. But if not, it won't happen." This is comparable to the historical miracle in which God split the Red Sea, enabling Moses and the children of Israel to cross on dry land. The Jordan's waters were divided in this instance, enabling Elijah and Elisha to cross the river on dry land. "What can I do for you before I depart, before the Lord takes me from this earth?" Elijah turns to his companion and begs. 2 Kings chapter 2 verse 11 in the Abridged Bible. As they walked on and talked, suddenly a chariot of fire with fire horses emerged and tore them apart. Elijah then flew into the sky in a whirlwind. "That's wonderful." Together, they were strolling while conversing. At the time, Elijah wasn't preaching or making predictions. Just the two close pals were out for a stroll and conversation. That has to be an amazing moment. According to the Bible, a chariot of fire and horses of fire appeared, and Elijah went up to heaven in a whirlwind. He was instantly carried up to heaven in a whirlwind. Amplified Bible, 2 Kings chapter 2 verses 12 to 15. Elijah was no longer visible when Elisha saw it and screamed out, my father, the chariot of Israel and its horsemen." Then, in a fit of rage, he grabbed hold of his own clothing and tore them in half. He returned and stood on the Jordan River's bank after picking up the mantle of Elijah that had fallen off of him. "Where is the Lord, the God of Elijah?" he asked the seas while wielding the cloak of Elijah that had fallen from him. After he too struck the water, it split in two, and Elisha was able to cross. The sons of the prophets who were keeping watch over rival groups in Jericho upon seeing him remarked, "The spirit of Elijah rests on Elisha." They approached him and paid him respect by kneeling on the ground. The no-death clause in Elijah's contract suddenly took effect. When a man or woman of God passes away, nothing of God perishes. We frequently overlook this. God always has a plan, as Elisha serves as a prime example. Think about this. Every epoch has had its man and woman to continue their job throughout the ages. God has never been worried about what his people will do without him. Now that he's separated from them? God, who created us, is all-powerful and never runs out of resources. For a minute, Elisha was surprised and startled, but this did not last long. He remembered the words of Elijah, and he bent down and took the cloak of the prophet. Returning across the Jordan, he seized the authority that was now his and, from that moment on, started his own prophetic career. God's plan was always effective. Elijah leaves, and Elisha comes in. Enoch, the second. Genesis chapter 5 contains Enoch's first recorded words. Enoch reportedly warned about the Lord's impending judgment against them, according to Jude. Enoch was a man who lived with God in the moral deterioration of Noah's time and prophesied the impending judgment. Enoch is like a breath of new air in a time when the majority of his contemporaries just had the record of their birth and the offspring they also had. Enoch was introduced similarly to the others, yet his testimony stands out. Although brief, his description is dense and substantial. This conveys to him something about his sincere walk with God. His example has served as a model for countless individuals over numerous centuries since it teaches us to live for ourselves rather than for the attention of others. He instructs us to fervently seek close fellowship and companionship with God, knowing that doing so will allow us to encounter God in a different way. General 5, 18-24, Enhanced Bible. Jared fathered Enoch when he was born, at the age of 162. Jared had other sons and daughters over his 800-year lifespan following the birth of Enoch. Jared passed away after 962 years of life. Enoch gave birth to Methuselah when he was 65 years old. Having other children, Enoch continued to walk in regular company with God 300 years after Methuselah's birth. Enoch lived for a total of 365 years. And Enoch walked with God in a spirit of reverent fear and submission. And because God took him to be at home with him, he was not found among men. The first recorded rapture occurred in the case of Enoch, who was simply taken by God. Maybe the fellowship was so strong that God's presence just wrapped him and carried him away. The guy that this world was not worthy of was discussed in the book of Hebrews. Amplification of Hebrews chapter 11 verses 5-6, Bible. Enoch was picked up and transported to paradise by faith that pleased God, preventing him from catching a glimpse of death. And because God had taken him, no one could find him. Because even before he was transported to paradise, there was still evidence that he had walked with God and pleased him. He gained this witness. However, it is difficult to walk with God and please him without faith. Because anybody who approaches God must unavoidably hold to the beliefs that God exists and that he rewards those who passionately and assiduously seek him. Knowing that God will always provide for his own adequately and abundantly and carefully watch over us till we flourish in every wonderful way is incredibly reassuring. 2 Chronicles chapter 16 verse 9 in the AMP translation. Because of this, the Lord's eyes are constantly scanning the entire planet in order to provide for those whose hearts are wholly his. You made a stupid decision here. You will therefore experience wars moving forward. Therefore, even while the Father shows us great kindness so that we can develop, what he really wants from us is an open, sincere, and unassuming response to the love he shows us. But the sincere worshippers will worship the Father and Spirit from the depths of their being and in truth at a future and present time, for the Father wishes such people to be his worshippers. God is Spirit. He is the origin of life, but he is invisible to us. And those who serve him must do so in both truth and spirit. John chapter 4, 23-24. God is constantly on the lookout for obedient and devoted people who will devote their entire life to serving him. These are the means by which he can actually make use of and display his greatness. The Bible claims that Enoch did not suffer the same fate as Adam and the rest of his lineage. The man survived. The rapture is compared to Enoch in the New Testament. One objective of Enoch's translation is to emphasize the biblical reality that all of us who have put our confidence in the Lord will ultimately be saved. The example of Enoch provides believers faith that they will ultimately prevail over death, even if the vast majority of believers will physically pass away. Third, Christians in the last days. We are now in the recorded prophecy period. As of the time of writing, this has not yet occurred. Christians in the end times will experience a rapture, even though many of us, if not all of us, will feel the pain of death because we do not know the precise hour Jesus will return. Another significant point is that in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 verses 13-18, both Christians who have already passed away and those who are still alive will take part in this event. Amplified Bible, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 verses 13-18. In order for you to grieve for them and for others to have hope beyond this life, we do not want you to be ignorant believers concerning those who are sleeping in death. Thank you for joining us on this thought-provoking journey through the Immortal Trio of the Bible. We hope this exploration has sparked your curiosity and invited you to delve further into the profound wisdom found in sacred texts. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more illuminating content. Until next time, remember to seek truth, unlock mysteries, and embrace the eternal journey within. Thanks for watching.